Letter 8, May 4th. Since Laurence left this morning, I can't stop weeping. I don't even know what I'm weeping for. I'll remember this weeping for the rest of my life. I don't think I can wait any longer for Shu to call me or send word of some sort. It's been a week since Bunny died, and I still haven't received the slightest reply from her. My life has been propelled in an entirely new direction. After being tested for 3 months and 13 days, I have arrived at the present. Another test. I think my vision of a future life can now begin to move beyond the vision I've held on to for the past 2 or 3 years of Shu. Last night was the 3rd time I'd gone to one of the center's dinners for women, and it was my 2nd time attending an administrative committee meeting. I'd never officially paid membership dues, and so for each vote I didn't dare raise my hand, pour ou contre, for or against, causing the other members to treat me as an outsider, although for the most part they smiled benignly at me. I felt quite at ease with them and enjoyed the meeting. The center was another home for me in Paris. Before the cocktail party, they invited Genevieve to say a few words. Genevieve was an older lesbian who brought warmth to my heart whenever I saw her. The word lesbian is a term that is really only meaningful in political contexts. She was also a political figure and publisher for whom gay rights was a cause. Her press is called Genevieve Pasteur and specializes in publishing works related to lesbian and women's sexuality, and is very radical. In person, she is quite soft-spoken, and yet sharp and straightforward, and very inspiring. Laurence is one of the head organizers. She spoke forcefully and animatedly. Her casual short brown hair made her look so much like a young Shui Yao visiting my place for the first time. That and the green-brown military trousers she wore. She was also about the same height as Shui Yao and Xiao Yang. The cumulative effect recalled my earliest memory of Shui Yao. Laurence caught my eye immediately. I had been stealing glances at her for the last 2 meetings, but she never met my eye. During the meeting, she disappeared a few times. She gave the impression of being a little cold and unsociable, but in fact she was very bold. At the first meeting, Laurence proposed that the university screen a certain lesbian movie that everyone present would attend. But when no one agreed to an action that would expose their individual identities, she breezily declared, "Fine, no problem, I'll go by myself." Yesterday evening, as Genevieve spoke, Laurence remained standing and watched her from a distance, occasionally disappearing into the backstage washroom. Maybe she was having a quiet moment with someone else. I like her style. Her personality was totally different from Shui Yao's, but contained in Shui Yao's physical form. At 9 p.m., they turned off the lights and lit candles around the lecture hall, and some dance music drifted out from behind the stage. I hastily gathered my coat, scarf, hat, and backpack so I could escape. I didn't know half of the French girls there, and I didn't have the nerve to ask anyone to dance. Some girls had already paired off and were making out in the romantic candlelight, making me feel awkward. Suddenly, Laurence approached me. "Ne partez pas, vous pourrez danser avec moi." "Don't go, will you dance with me?" "Je suis pressée pour voir un ami chinois qui habite près d'ici." "I've got to run to see a Chinese friend who lives nearby." "Il n'y a rien de pressé, vous avez l'impression très seule." "It can't be so urgent, you seem so lonely." As she was speaking, she came closer to me and lightly took my hand, leading me toward the door. "Parce que j'ai un cœur brisé. Because I have a broken heart. I surprised myself by having the courage to trust her from the start. Perhaps it was because I had just finished writing Shu the letter about being stained in my inner landscape the night before. Sooner or later I'd have to say it out loud. Why on earth am I weeping? Is it because of what Xiaoyang said in Tokyo and Laurence last night that made me realize the most fundamental principles in life? My tears are forming fierce resistance within me. I don't want to mail the letter to Shu anymore. The sky is already growing light over Montmartre as I hesitate, unwilling to waste a trip to the post office to drop the letter into that outgoing mail slot. So I'll leave the letter unfinished and skip directly to tomorrow's letter. Memorandum. At 6:30 in the morning, I boiled myself a bowl of instant rice noodles. I added a small piece of French cabbage, the last of 3 heads of cabbage that Bunny had eaten, and possibly the cause of death. A third of a can of tuna, half a can of mushrooms, an egg, and the leftovers from last night's sweet and sour fish at Yang Yao's restaurant. I stood in the kitchen, washed the pot I'd used to heat the fish, peeled a large cantaloupe, and ate it while leafing through the books that my roommate planned to sell and had left outside the kitchen. Ever since returning from Tokyo, I would often go to Kamira's place for dinner. She's a close friend and can lift me out of any depression. When she cooked, she would often put on an air of authority and say, "Cuisinier, c'est l'invention." Then she'd mix together whatever random things were left in her refrigerator. I smile when I think how cute she is. Now I've begun cooking more too, using her method, blindly mixing together ingredients while murmuring to myself, "Cuisinier, c'est l'invention." What's contagious in a friendship is truly frightening. After I ate my inventive rice noodles and cleaned up, I put on my baseball cap and went downstairs to call Yang. It was almost 2 in the afternoon over there, a 7-hour time difference. I left Tokyo 3 weeks ago. I had mailed her a letter each week and had been using a 50-unit phone card to call her every Wednesday or Thursday. At the same time, I used a phone card to call my family every Saturday night. Establishing these 2 sets of military reinforcements has made me feel grateful again. I think I really must be changing. For 3 years, I had stopped corresponding with Young because we were so far away from each other and had drifted apart. Since moving to France, I had rarely called my family as well, and instead have spent time and money calling one person only, writing one person only, and sending her gifts of all kinds. After calling Young, I felt a little dazed and walked along Rue de Montcenis, away from Marie toward Place Albert-Caen. Then I continued down to the flea markets in Porte de Clignancourt, in north of Paris. After a week spent writing a bundle, perhaps the last bundle, of letters to Shu, I was finally able to enjoy the fresh, soft beauty of Montmartre in the morning. Usually I walked straight to the post office in the early morning, and then took a short cut home. From the square, I turned down Rue du Zem and stopped before the window of a small cafe to observe my reflection. I took off my cap and glasses so I could appreciate my own expression as I sang an old song. Only when you grow more gray hairs, only when you laugh, your laugh brings more wrinkles to the corners of your mouth. Am I beautiful? Am I beautiful enough? After White Whale saw the suspended step of the stork early last April, she told me the scene that left the deepest impression on her. It was the moment when the two great actors, Marcello Mastroianni and Jean Moreau, meet again. Many years after the politician has vanished, a television journalist discovers him quietly hiding out in a small village on the Greek-Albanian border. Refugees from Albania, Turkey, and Kurdistan populate the village. The journalist brings the politician's wife to confirm if he is the missing politician or not. With the television cameras fixed on the couple's reunion, the wife turns to the camera and says, "C'est pas lui." The politician's wife had told her husband that if there ever came a time when she could no longer see what he was thinking by looking into his eyes, then she could no longer make love to him. After not seeing each other for so long, in the instant they met again on that strange bridge, the woman could no longer look into her husband's eyes and know what was in his heart. And so White Whale said to me, "C'est pas lui." How terrifying. Many years from now, who will be able to look into my eyes and know that I am myself? C'est pas lui. Will the species cry of astonishment one day?